Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Happy New Year. A very happy New Year. Happy 2025. And welcome to this really interesting webinar we're having this evening. I'm joined by Flavia Schmidt here, who's just a dynamo in terms of getting into this whole area of working with children and young people using the Hypno-CBT approach. And yeah, she's I'm so excited always to be in the room with her when she's talking about it because she's so excited about it. And it's really like that. And she's very dynamic, made a lot happen from her experience of taking it, which is what we're going to be asking her about tonight. So thank you so much, Flavia, for being here. That's wonderful.
I'm very excited. This course has been so many years in the making for Emma Coffey and Jana Matislova that I'm very honored to be able to talk to you about the course. I stand on the shoulders of giants, and I wouldn't be here without those two. So my heart and all my training goes with them. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys because there's just so much out there and I just love what I do. Someone said to me the other day, when you retire XYZ? I went, I'm sorry, when am I retiring? I'm not retiring. Why to retire when you're having so much fun?
Exactly. I think as Albert Ellis said, I'll retire when I die.
Yeah.
What else are you going to do, So, so, and I want to thank you all for being here and taking your time. It's precious time. Time is precious. My particular teaching this year from my teacher is make your time worth your time. Make your time worth your time. That's really something, isn't it? So, yeah, we'll make this evening worth your time as much as we can. And that will be particularly helpful if you participate and share your questions and comments and a little bit. Some of you already put in why you're here this evening. Why are you here? Why are you doing something else? You're here for a reason. Share it. Part of this whole journey is us becoming more open and sharing and coming from not being shy about coming from this deepest core within our heart and our heartfelt values. And so I'm hoping that that's where you're coming from this evening, that you have deep heartfelt values about getting into this area and being able to help in this particular area. And so what I'm going to do now is briefly, I'm going to ask Flavia about her journey, how she got into this, and then we're going to get into it a lot more and talk about what the huge need there is and the opportunity for people to be able to come and help and serve that huge need that's there and the benefits that brings for everybody involved. And then what is involved in doing that in terms of getting trained and taking this particular course. And Flavia's going to share her whole experience all the way through it. And then we're going to get into some case studies and look at different tips and things all the way through and some of the issues that are unique to this area that have to be navigated, like dealing with parents and things like that. So we're going to dive into this, and some of you may be also professionals in this area as well, and we'd love to have your wisdom and input too. No one's going to stand here pretending like we know everything. Nobody ever does know anything. We're all constantly learning, so sharing your wisdom too would be fantastic as well. So Flavia, tell me a little bit about very summarily, how did you get A, involved with taking the diploma, and then B, decide to do this particular course, and how's that all worked out?
Yeah. Well, it started, I studied clinical psychology, and at university, I just became a bit disillusioned with the amount of theory, because I do love a bit of theory. However, there was no practical application. There was no and now. And I think I kept looking for courses, and when I came across this course, I loved the combination of the CBT and the hypnotherapy, but that it was scientifically based. There was evidence to support it, and there was an ongoing learning process within the college. There was never this is a course, bang, bush, done, do it, and you'll be awesome. There was this continual learning approach to everything, is that you start with one course, there are more courses, you can delve into different areas. And so that's why I did the course. And as I was doing the course, I was getting contacts from teenagers, and, I've got kids. 13 and 9 now. And a few years ago, I had a lot of primary school parents just not knowing what to do, not how to handle things. And while I was doing the course, I started to think, oh, what if there was something I could do in this area? Uh,
This was you were doing this was the
the
diploma, not
diploma,
before the
yes.
children and teens course had
Before the
arrived.
children and teens course. And then that's when I came on to the children and teens course. About 6 months after doing the diploma, Emma was doing another online course. And I basically knocked people out the way to get to it because I could just see there was the need, but I just didn't know how to apply the course. How do I translate these exercises to children and teens? And at that point, it was mainly teens that were approaching. So by doing the course, it just opened my eyes. And, those who take the course going forward, you will see me when I trained with Emma. I'm on that. I'm in discussions. I'm learning along with you. And then in some videos, I'm actually coming back as a student. And um, I cannot emphasize how much detail is in this course, how strong the foundation is from Jana, how Emma uses her expertise as a teacher and dealing with that, and even experiences in her own life that she brings forward, and how the practical side is emphasized. And I think that's when I took that into my practice. And for me, then my practice exploded because and I've told this to Mark before, I've never advertised. I don't advertise. I don't do anything. I just have word of mouth. And I am full. I have more than enough clients, and I have nearly every head teacher in the area actually sending in referrals. So they will, I'll have a parent pop in saying, oh, Mrs. So-and-so said I should contact you, because I actually never met these head teachers, and I have promised myself this year I'm actually going to go and meet them. But they have seen the child the way it was. They came to me and then they've returned and they see the process of the child developing. I work with the teachers, and so the head teachers have learned about me through that. Um,
So
but
it's a result very much by the results that the schools are
yes,
seeing.
that's it. And that's when they just keep referring. And, there's nothing like, I always joke is that if I have one mum on a Friday, I'll have 5 clients on the Monday. Because there's always the netball court that they talk about it, the soccer field that they're chatting about it, and they just do all the advertising for me because there is such a need for someone that's real, someone that gives them skills instantly and can actually affect change. And that's what this course does and has empowered me to do, is to effect change over a very short period of time. No matter what the condition or the challenge or the phobia, we're able to work very closely with them. I mean, granted, I do have
We're
some
not
for
we're
longer
not
term.
saying the kids are being cured in a single session, but they've got
No.
some forward movement happening quite quickly. Some
So you've
forward movement.
got 4 to 8 sessions that you have with them, and it already within 3 sessions you see a big change and you see the huge progression at the end of that. And sometimes I have ones that come in for top-ups, and that's fine. I have one that comes once a month because she's going through her GCSE exams, and her mother says she is sane after she's seen you, so she's coming back to you once a month.
Oh, and when you say you're full, what is that? What is that? I mean, let's just get an idea of the number of how much you're working and how many hours is that involved? It's
So that's minimum 5 hours, 6 hours a day.
5 days
And
a week.
on 5 days a week, yes. I don't work weekends. I have too busy a children's sporting life. So I run around the countryside with that. And that's another side of my business that's developed, is I actually do sports performance as well, training. Mindset, I call it mind mastery. So I have that
And
development.
that's just come out of this. That's not
Yes.
something you did as separate. You were just able
No.
to take the tools and the processes and systems and
Yeah.
approach and apply it to an area. Yeah, well, I love I love that. I always say, it's a bit like not a lab, more like a Meccano set for those. You can build things with what you learn. You can build things and get into different areas. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's my choice though. But if I'm standing on the side of a netball court, I might as well coach the 150 girls that are in the club in a performance program. So I have much more fun, and
Fantastic.
it's
Fantastic.
development of the concepts into a performance base. So with this course, been able to develop in any area that I've wanted to. Whether it's working with phobias or OCD traits. I have now got the confidence to work with more specialist areas to actually grow my practice even more.
Fabulous. Okay, well, let's dive in and let's find out. I know you wanted to talk and speak to people, which you already did a little bit, because basically, this all this referral is happening because there's such a need. Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Shall I share?
Yeah. Let's go in. I'm gonna take a moment to read through people's comments here, which is wonderful. What people put in.
Yes.
Thank you all for putting in.
Okay, everybody. This is just a short presentation. Okay, so please don't feel that it's going to be droning on forever. I do hope not.
It's not one of mine. Yeah.
Bless you, Mark. These quotes are from that Emma source. They're in the handbook, and it's really good to reflect on them ahead of it when we're looking at working with children and teens. They are, even our young people, we talk about this course is up to the age of 25, and we discuss through the course how the brain is developed, and how it only stops growing between the ages of 23 and 25. The focus is actually quite reflective for yourself first. And that is why I thought I'd start with a mandate. And I want you guys to all just grab a pen and paper. And just consider this briefly. It's only for you. No one's going to share it. And reflect on what you offer in your current practice or what you want to offer if you are starting training or getting into training. Making sure that they're accurate. You've worked with smart goals, you know how to be accurate, okay, and measurable, all right? And ask yourself these basic questions. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you do it for? Why is it you instead of someone else doing it? Mark asked that in the initial questions. Why are you here and not someone else? And how do things change after you do it? And what they cover in the course, and Emma discusses this, is the importance of developing your statement. As you're going into practice or even reflecting that you are in practice, these questions can be quite hard to answer, but they are important because you are on as much of a journey as your clients are. Yeah, I know when I started the course, my self-talk was not wonderful. And I struggled with that. And through the course, I discovered that I don't need that negative self-talk anymore. Um, I have the confidence to do this, and I can share that with my clients. So developing a mandate is very important when you are embarking on a new course, a new study, or a new direction. So just jot those down and have a think about them because it's just something reflective to do on your own, not for the group. So as Mark was discussing, what is the need? Okay.
But
There is,
before we get there, that had a real strong impact on you, didn't you? Doing your mandate statement, you said.
yes. And I think for me, it was, I always thought, oh, I love working with young people. It's great fun. It's just, I love it. Um, but there's a lot more to it than that. And I had to reflect on what what do I do? What do I bring to a session? What do I bring to these young people? Do I bring a sense of direction for them? Do I bring um, a confidence, a belief? Am I able to shine a light on their own journey and help them with those steps to find the way that they need to be? Am I also a guidance for their parents? And that is important when you're working with young people, is that we emphasize that below a certain age, and it's normally 14, 15, legally 18, where they have a parent in the room with them. So I am showing and guiding and empowering them to take over that responsibility during the week in between sessions.
Are
And
you
what,
able? Go on.
hey,
Sorry.
no, carry on, Mark.
I
No,
was going to say, are you able to identify what shifted in you when you did that mandate and the clarification, which I think is the word perhaps, that came from putting that into precise language?
so I think it stopped the fluffy of the, oh, I love this. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I do. I love it. I'm passionate about it. But what it did is it actually gave me my sense of purpose, and it directed me to a single sense of purpose, is that I want to empower young people.
Mm, mm.
And that has
Okay.
been my mandate going forward. I need to empower them because they simply don't have the questions or the answers to move forward. So I can help them with that.
I'm going to come back and prod again. But and what by getting to that statement, what did that shift in you?
That shifted my focus, my concentration, and it gave me a drive
Mm.
I didn't think I necessarily had before to this level.
A deeper something, a deeper kind of passion motor engine to move this forward. Yeah.
I had well, I had a kind of a train for my purpose. I
Mm,
now knew how to direct it. And
mm.
by doing this, I actually found that purpose to actually affect that change. As before, it was just a nice idea, but someone else, I'm sure, will do it.
Well, I can't you imagine you being very fluffy, Flavia. So fluffy Flavia just doesn't seem. But maybe I because I met you after
Don't know
that
my nickname?
process. But my goodness, if that was the process that created the drive that is Flavia's mission, then you should all do the mandate process.
It's all your fault, Mark. That's it. It's on the course. That's it. Done.
Emma, I think in this case. Okay, fantastic.
That's it. And so that's why I think it's very powerful for everyone to consider it. Um,
Mm, really.
Going forward, reflecting on who you are in your practice now or who you want to be. Yeah. So I think definitely consider that, everyone. So we want to discuss the need, okay? And this is important for us to actually understand how big the market is out there. Um, the statistics are very scary. Is how many children and young people have a mental disorder. Okay, obviously this is general, okay, but the amount of anxiety and I think loneliness, I think is becoming so ingrained in our current culture. The isolation of being behind a screen, the inability to communicate within the family, within the friend group, starts very young. And it's starting younger now, going online more, gaming more. It is taking away that life skill. And that loneliness can move towards anxiety. It can do isolation, social skills. So we have to be monitoring these statistics. And this is from the 2023 Good Child Report. All of these statistics are in the coursework as well, and are discussed in more detail. We look at COVID pandemic. Now, obviously, we're shifting through it now, but there's still elements of it that we are noticing. However, the actual global impact has become more prevalent. And, here we see 47% of young people report lowered expectations for their future because of the financial strains that their family are experiencing. We never need to underestimate how much the impact of their wider community is on the child. They notice everything. Whether they're able to communicate that is another story entirely, but this really is a part of their lives. Okay. What's interesting is the quality of family and peer relationships. Okay. They really feel the disconnect between themselves and others, but are unable to communicate that. And, through the CBH course, we work with that with adults, and we definitely could be able to develop that with the children and adapt it. And the course adapts that structure. 24% believe that improving their mental health is critical to achieving their ambitions. Okay, so they understand something's wrong. They don't know what to do about it. And that's where we step in, is being able to help them to find where the challenges are placed and not avoid it. Mark and I were chatting previously about anxiety and avoidance, and there's a huge correlation between the two, especially in teens in secondary school. I have a huge wave of school refusal that's coming through my door right now because they are struggling. I've got a case study a bit further on, which I'll discuss in a bit more detail. But we now have the issue of I just won't go in and you can't make me. And they are suffering. I've had children that are off school for 6 months now, and they're still not back in, which means they've slipped 6 months of work, which knocks their confidence. They have anxiety about going back because they will be judged. People will look at them funny because who's this new kid? So we have that self-fulfilling prophecy, and the catastrophic thinking is coming in. The final is the actual statistics from CAMS. That
I'm
nine
just going to jump in there before when you say catastrophic thinking, just because for some people that might be a little bit of jargon there. What sort of what type of thinking is coming in?
Catastrophic for teens is I'm going to be bullied. I will be rejected. I will fail. I will never have a job. I will
Yeah.
never move out. For younger children is mummy's going to die.
Mm,
Daddy won't be here. There's no money for food. Whereas there is, but they've told themselves this is catastrophic
mm.
thinking. So it all depends on the age group and the developmental stage that they are in, as to what that comes out as. And we often find that that will come out in separation anxiety, bedwetting, inability to sleep. And those are obviously conditions that we work with through the course as well.
I mean, I've seen a lot with the late late teenagers, and then early students. I've ruined my career. I've ruined my life chances.
Yeah,
I'll never, this sort of thing.
yeah,
So yeah, and of course, the longer they're away from school, the more it's not that that has to become, but the more they get into that, and the harder it is to get back out of it, and the pain of getting back out of it, because they
yeah.
are going to be 2 years behind,
Yes, they
and
are.
that's massively challenging now. There's another set of factors to deal with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is a challenge, and as the expression goes, get off the wrong train because it's very expensive to get back. Get off it quick. And I try to get to the parents as well that this needs to change now. We need to effect change now because it's not going to improve.
Yeah, I mean that's when I look at this whole issue that's going on so much. It's so much about timely intervention,
Yeah.
because we can get them back on the train of that same school year, for
Yes.
example, which
Yeah.
it seems to be. I don't know what the costs are, the impact of them dropping back a school year, but I just somehow imagine it's huge psychologically.
Oh, huge. It's the social side of it.
Yes,
Academics not the problem, but a lot of them will then drop out and actually do online learning, which isolates them further.
further. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I work with schools to try and get them back in as soon as possible in small little steps, that they can actually feel that change, but realize it's achievable with behavior experiments. Yeah.
But this is why we need more of you doing this.
Yeah.
Sophie. Yeah.
It's
There's a
scary.
huge need to and get these
Yes.
kids back in
Yeah.
before it starts to develop into something that's
Yeah.
not intractable, but much harder.
Much harder, but also it's a case of also not just a school refusal, but bad behavior in school, not
Mm,
listening to teachers, being
mm, mm,
argumentative, getting sent out. I deal with a lot of, unfortunately, young boys, teen boys, that are just being kicked out of class all the time because they are back chatting and not doing what the teacher asks them to do. And a lot of it can be sorted out extremely quickly. But the teacher gets argumentative, the teen gets argumentative, and next thing they're sitting outside the headmaster's office for the
mm.
next day, or being excluded or locked in a room for a day. And that's not doing anyone any good. It just fosters the negativity. So dealing with that behavioral response and conditioned reflex, is so important for them at that age because it does stifle their education because
Mm.
they're just not in class. Simple.
Fantastic.
But if we
Yeah.
just touch on the referrals to CAMS, we've got almost 950,000 children referred between 2022 and 2023. And 39% had referrals closed before receiving support. One of my clients was one of those. She was actually taken to A&E because she was suicidal. The mental health nurse interviewed her, sent her home, and basically said, CAMS will be in contact. And 8 weeks later, no one had contacted her. So her mother approached me and I said, I don't work with suicide, but let me have a chat with her and see what's going on. And we worked very hard for 6 months. It's probably my longest client. And 18 months after her referral, she got contacted. And the CAMS actually said, oh, if she's still alive, it can't be that bad.
Really
That's
strange.
crushing for a parent. And my parent turned around and said, well, unfortunately, no thanks to you, but yes, I have got her help. And that's why she's doing well. And she's currently writing her GCSEs and going to study marine biology at a specialized university in Florida. So, I think it worked. But this is the problem that we are experiencing here. Um, there is 32,000 have been waiting for over 2 years. And that I've seen, and I see it regularly with my younger ones who have need a diagnosis of ADHD, autism, or ADD. They are all sitting at least on a 2-year waiting list for that. Now, although we don't directly work with that as part of our sphere of competence, we can put a lot of structure in place to support the child and help them until that diagnosis is put in place and they can receive additional help. And I do a lot of work with that.
Is because somebody, Camilla here said, do these statistics also reflect the surge of neurodivergent slash send children?
Probably yes. Now we are diagnosing more, we're becoming more aware of issues. It's not just stop being stupid child and sit in the corner.
Mm.
We're actually noticing there's a much deeper element here. So yes, they are all referrals for this age group, obviously.
So,
Yeah.
any questions about the course content? I think we'll address that in a minute. We're going to first
Yes,
be looking at the kind of what's going on out there and the huge need.
absolutely. Oh, right, there we go. Okay.
Oh,
So
well,
I
there we
thought
go.
Yeah, I was clicking the wrong thing. So I thought it might be beneficial just to touch on what you would learn as part of the course. Um, so we want to support children in meaningful ways. Okay, we want to make sure that everything that we're teaching them becomes part of their toolbox, and we speak a lot about that, having a toolbox. What's in your toolbox? And creatively. I sometimes use a bit of colored cardboard, and I make a little toolbox that they stick into their books. And then we take the exercise, we put it into the toolbox. So for the younger children, this is very beneficial. Do I need to do breathing now? Do I need to do my mindfulness technique and that? And they're very quick to adapt to these exercises. So we want to make sure you have a robust amount of tools in your toolbox that you can specifically teach to the children and young people. So we first of all want to build the emotional awareness and regulation. Okay, psychoeducation is very important at this age. For my younger ones, we have many different ways of explaining it to them, of the diagram with how they're feeling in their body. And, Emma goes through many examples of how she does teach it to her young clients. But this will obviously impact them going forward. And that's something for their parent to understand, is that all these techniques can be taken through into their teens, into their adult life. Um, we want to look at breaking the cycle of anxiety and avoidance, because these dysfunctional patterns become quickly ingrained. And what we understand about children is these habits are quickly taught and they are quickly solved. And I mean quickly, it does depend on the child, but if you're talking about an adult, they may have had this existing challenge for 10, 12 years, whereas for a child, it might be 2 or 3 months. It might be maybe a year if they're a bit older. So we've got a shorter time frame that we're working within. And we're always challenging those unhelpful thoughts. And we do it quite creatively, quite animated. Okay, what's that monster staying in your head? Let's draw that monster. Yeah, we will make it, and the child will draw it. And oh my goodness, the drawings that come up. We really get them involved creatively with it, and help them to confront that fear. What does that fear look like? And they love to draw these things and they love to talk about them. They love to stomp around the room and show you what it's doing. So we can actually talk about what that anxiety is and how we're hiding from it. Why are we hiding? Yeah. And sometimes I'll take my jacket and I'll put it over my head. I go, I'm hiding now. You can't find me. And then they go, oh, found you. And I say, do you see? You can always find me. I can always find you. And so we explain it to them quite in a lovely way that helps them to understand what's happening and what they're doing. We can use storyboards too. I have a sheet and we write storyboards. What's happening? I was at school and they draw little stick figures and we tell the story and they create these stories and they go home and they rewrite their story and they make it with heroes and wonderful characters that can come to light with it. Yeah.
I get some sense that I don't want to say in some ways they're easier or they get it more quickly or they're able to access it more quickly than adults. But there's an emotional directness and openness once that agenda's on the table
Yes.
that adults still are not so connected with, can't really get the
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? Would you say that's true?
absolutely. Children are so quick. Teens are, they try not to be quick. They try to give you a bit of, attitude. But, I call them on it and, we have a bit of fun with it. And, I can be as sarcastic as they can be, so we're good. But young ones are very and they really do want to work with it. I have a bag of soft toys and we sometimes throw them on the floor and we make them into different characters. Like, I don't like you. Well, that's not very nice to say. If you don't like me, that's okay. I'll play with someone else. Dunk, 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 and off we walk. So they instantly are happy to change it. And they do take things more on face value. So you can really get them to just observe things differently. We talk about separation anxiety and the heart button, the heart on the hand. And if you touch it and mummy touches it, you can feel the hug from far away. The Invisible String is a book that we work with as well. So all of these resources are part of the course and that you can develop to actually communicate well with kids. Um, the coping confidence is key because, we'll use the mindfulness and we will teach them self-hypnosis. Yeah. We actually encourage them to tell that narrative and to tell the story. And, as I've discussed before in other ones, is that the hypnosis looks a bit different. It's not always closed eyes. It's often open eyes. They can be drawing in a circle. They tend to do rhythmic drawing, or they can be just touching their hands together. For them, that's a relaxation. I had one, and I speak about in the course with dog phobia, where she'd draw her finger through my dog's fur, and that was her way of relaxing. She would just trace her finger through, and she could tell me the most wonderful stories just under hypnosis. And now I'm going up on my cloud, up to my castle, and then I'm going to see purple cats. And she is perfectly in that scene, and she's actually creating it herself, and she is confidently changing her narrative. Um, so we always want to foster the self-efficacy in the course. We really want to empower these children to make these changes and to face the challenges. Um,
And I think that's, I mean, right from the first thing here, giving children, teenagers, well, and adults, this ability to regulate, some emotional self-regulation, which means then also attention regulation, because impulse of attention, etc. And
yes,
that I just think it's so important to remember that that's fundamental to being able to achieve any sort of goal is be able to actually regulate your impulses, so you're
yes,
not eating all the cookies all the time, and also in terms of on this construct, this idea of self-efficacy, the technical word for confidence.
yeah,
I'm always teaching the first, if there's four steps or four rungs that Bandura mentioned for this, Albert Bandura, it's a very simple but really, really powerful set of ideas he's got. The first step is emotional self-regulation.
yeah,
If you can't regulate your emotions, there's no way for you to step into real self-effective behavior. So the
yeah,
first is self-regulation.
yeah,
And being able to these different tools, whether it's the heart thing there,
yeah,
whatever it is, they're
yeah,
able to regulate. And that
yeah,
sense that I can regulate, calm myself down,
yeah.
so important.
That's it. Absolutely. And I've lent into the chimp management, the chimp technique for children, identifying, oh, what did your chimp say in your head? Oh, well, he said I should get angry and smash the door. Oh, and what did you tell him? Oh, no, I told him, no, 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 that's not what we do today. And so they start to actually notice their behavior and objectively be able
Mm.
to separate it. So we use a lot of techniques and, happy as the course goes and we want to put the support on the hub as well, where we will discuss additional techniques that we can investigate and that work for us.
And so as they're building this emotional, this ability to self-regulate, they are starting to feel a greater sense of confidence, which allows them to get into these things that they've been avoiding. And then also you're reinforcing that with the new story that they're developing because of these new potentials,
That's
these
it.
new possibilities that come from the self-regulation and
Yes.
non-avoidance.
And in that change in themselves and the change in their attitude and the way they're approaching
Mm,
it, you've now changed their environment.
mm,
So, conditioned reflex, you've now
mm.
worked through that as well. And that's so important because if they walk into a school or into a playground a little bit more confident, they'll obviously be seen as confident and it's a self-fulfilling then. And so it's
Mm.
reflected and that's what they start to see and that's what the parent then understands. And that's why you have them in the room. So you can also explain to them, this is what we're looking at. Have you noticed this? I'm curious to know if, and we challenge and we encourage them to do that with the child.
Fabulous.
So, just to touch on a few more
Mm.
points, we always encourage the positive behavioral changes. So, role play exercises, visualization techniques. We want them to, we call them thought invaders, and we use quite playful scripts to make abstract concepts relatable and actually allow them to voice something that they haven't. And I always, dart back to Salter, about I really want them to be able to express themselves properly and grow their emotional intelligence and understand that anger isn't just anger. Yet, what else is there? Why are you angry? And we always look at the anger iceberg. Are you hungry? Are you frustrated? Are you sad? So we're developing that emotional intelligence that allows them to be stronger as they go forward. Then they don't just go, rah. They actually go, that's really making me angry because you've hurt my feelings. They've got that narrative going already. And that is so important going forward because I see so many young
Mm.
people who don't have the emotional intelligence. They don't understand what that feeling is. They just know they have the feeling.
Mm.
And if we can grow that in the young people, what better for the adults now? Yeah.
And to recognize that underlying emotion is some need, some problem that
Yeah.
needs to be addressed or met or expressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's it. And it can be. And
yeah,
if we
yeah,
can
yeah.
teach them to, and I find it a lot, unfortunately, still with boys, that they come in, they go, I'm just so angry. I'm just so mad about everything. It's so blah. And I'm going, but what are you mad about? What are you angry about? And we talk about it, and I say, well, that's not anger. You're hurt. That hurt your feelings. That was not a nice situation to be in. And they're like, yeah, that actually hurt. What made you angry? Yeah. But that's not what happened. And they are then developing this wonderful way of communicating where they can say, I feel angry that you took my pencil. Next time, could you ask first?
Mm, mm,
And I teach that sentence constantly. I
mm,
feel dot, dot, dot. Next time, can you dot, dot, dot. And we role play it and we bring it in, and that enables the communication within their parents, with their friends, with their teachers. They're able to go to the teacher and go, I don't feel good when you dismiss me in class. Next time, can you either ask me to speak to you afterwards or can we address it? But they start to actually communicate with that teacher. And then the teacher's a bit taken aback, go, yeah, sure. Um,
I bet they are. I have a whole thing about the teachers teaching
yeah,
non-assertiveness. Then kids
yes,
aren't allowed to speak up,
no,
and it messes them up. And
it
they've so
does.
that's it's a problem. I know it's easy for the teachers to handle, but it messes the kids up when they can't speak back to the teacher.
And that's when I find I have major behavior problems. because
Yeah.
they can't actually speak. So, this is just part of it. It's teaching them how to communicate,
Mm,
empowering them, because through
mm.
communication in their job in life, they're going to need to be able to communicate properly. They can't just smash something on their desk and walk out. That's you
And
fine.
work out how to solve that problem, because
Yeah,
the emotion they're experiencing is the sign of a problem, and they need to get creative as to how to actually address that. Yeah.
yes. But if they blow up, what is that? What has that achieved?
More
Absolutely nothing.
more problems.
More problems, and you probably got fired. And
Yeah.
this is what I can discuss with them, and really opens up their approach. So this is in the course we cover that as well. And I do think rebuilding connections is an important part, because while you've gone through the process of helping them with the skills and that, we need to then reconnect them with their friends, probably with a hobby that they have now neglected. I even have an adult who is struggling through something and has worked out that she actually just stopped learning Russian. And that was something she was very passionate about. Yeah. So I think, if we can cultivate that hobby, that relationship through hobbies is important. Joined, I love a sport. I play the sport. I have friends in the sport. It really does broaden their perspective and helps them to build those social skills, and then the self-esteem part of it. I'm a very pro sport person for young people. I believe it teaches them all the skills that they're going to need in later life: resilience, communication, grit, all of those. And, that is part of it. I do encourage my clients to either get into sport in some form, or at least have an activity that has a social side to it. So, that's what we want to work at as well. And obviously, developmental approaches. And Jana does a number of big sections, which definitely tested my brain cells, in how our interventions work with certain age groups, and cognitive abilities, and how we do inductions for different ages. What is the evidence behind that? And that is so important, because there are lots of just snapshots of, okay, through this age group, what is it? Through this developmental stage, what is attachment theory? How is that impacting them when they're older? So there's a lot of that behind it. The science behind it is understanding what development stage they are at and what technique is best suited for that age, and the reason why.
Okay, well, let's just kind of put a sidebar in there, if we may,
Mm,
just on a little bit about how the course got created, so people can see the substance behind it, because there are
mm,
various hypnotherapy courses for children and young people that have been created by lay hypnotherapists, and I'm sure they're excellent in their own way. But
yeah,
this took a particularly interesting developmental pathway and the people involved.
mm,
So I might, maybe I'll just take a couple of minutes and you could add to that and then come back into this.
yeah,
Um, we'd all had the idea of doing this for a long time, but we wanted to find the right person to start doing it. Then we were asked to, this was particularly, I was asked, and then Shelley joined me, to teach a course to the psychologists at Great Ormond Street Children's Hospital, which is a world famous children's hospital, does incredible specialist and creative interventions for children who are extremely challenging, children and young people with extremely challenging medical issues, sometimes unresolvable medical issues. And then the psychologists team involved in that. So they wanted to learn the cognitive behavioral hypnosis approach. We jammed the whole 21 days into 8 days, which in the end I don't think was the best idea. But anyway, what to do? We had to try and deliver it in 8 days. And Emma came in a couple of times, particularly towards the end. Emma's somebody who trained with us. She actually got a scholarship to train with us when we ran a scholarship program. And then we noted that she started to work with teenagers and then young people, and she'd done quite a lot of work. And she came and shared some case studies of the way she used the Hypno-CBT or CBH model with children and young people. And the psychologists at Great Ormond Street Hospital were really blown away. They just loved the case studies, just made absolute sense to them from their own experience and everything we've been teaching them. So we then said to Emma, come on, Emma, let's develop it. It took a lot of boosting Emma's confidence to do this. And we found somebody for her to work with, who's Dr. Jana Martiskova. Jana is a clinical psychologist from Slovakia, and her PhD in clinical psychology is focused on developmental disorders, particularly autism. And she also has an advanced diploma in rational motor behavior therapy. And then she came and trained with us to learn cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy and became one of our trainers and tutors. She's wonderful, and both an academic and a clinical psychologist and a therapist and a tutor on the course as well. So she worked side by side with Emma, and one of the things they did was get all the key research papers. There's not that much in terms of pediatric hypnosis, and I also got them the two main textbooks, one of which has gone walkies. So I've lent it to somebody and they're 60 quid each. So I'm not that happy about it. But this is one of it's in its second edition, which is Sugarman and Westman, Therapeutic Hypnosis with Children and Adolescents. They're both professors of, I think, pediatric psychology or pediatrics. And there's another one that's in its fourth edition by Olness and Cohen. So they both had these and they poured through these books, their own case studies and everything, and then basically applied the cognitive behavioral model to everything that was being taught in there, because it was very much a Ericksonian model, but it could be ported into the cognitive behavioral approach. And then at the same time developed teaching hypnosis in the cognitive behavioral way, how that applies developmentally through the ages, particularly from Jana, because she has, she's a PhD clinical psychologist. So the course has got an incredible amount of substance and depth to it, both not just experientially, but also from the academic background and then from the particular work that was done here. There's no course in cognitive behavioral hypnotherapy for children and young people anywhere in the world. No one's even published a book about it because it's not been done yet. So this is really groundbreaking, exciting stuff. And Flavia was speaking there to the sort of the depth of some of the academic content that comes into understanding the developmental issues and then how to adapt through the developmental ages. Am I coming in at the right point there, picking up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the thing is that, a lot of people say to me, oh, now I want to work with kids. And I go, that's fantastic. Love that. Love that for you. Now do the work. Because without that foundation, you are not going to approach them at the right level. And it will either go above them or below them or not hit them right. And because they're going through that journey, you need to understand how their brains have developed, at what stage are they, and what are the impacts to them at this age. How do they see the world? What is their breadth of the world that they're in? For me, it's given me great understanding with my own kids, because I'm going, okay, now you're at that age where you're starting to become more aware of the world around you, not just your more limited family, friends, school. You're now noticing other countries. You're now wanting to know about different situations and different impacts. And to understand that on that level, and then to understand the challenges that imposes, and anxiety that can induce, we have to then understand how the brain is working to then how we can work with it. And Jana does a lot of wonderful work with that to actually explain it, and allow you to also reflect back on it. And I'll often go back to the coursework and go, right, I've got this age. I haven't had this age for a while now. Let me just double check. How do I approach this? So really, it is robust in the course. And I think the last point is working with families and schools. Yeah. I do know that some people are concerned about it, resistant. And I want you to ask yourself why. I'm sure that, you speak to your clients or you speak to other people in a practice, and this applies to working with the parent alongside the child. They really are great sources of information. They are the person that is with the child the most. So their input and their collaboration in it is important. Sometimes with my older teens from about 14, 15, they might request that they come in by themselves after their parent has been with them for a few sessions. And I almost see the disappointment in the parent having to go out. But we respect that once we are, understanding how the process is working. And then I will send follow-up emails for each of the parents afterwards, if they're not in the room. Sometimes I'm dealing with a parent that is a separation. So I've got a father that wants to know what's going on. So that email then goes to both parents at the end. And most of the time they are very encouraging. They really do want their child to be feeling better. They've noticed the issue and they do want to support that. They will ask normal questions. And I think it's lovely for them because they really lean into the exercises, I can tell you. They love a good fluffy cloud. They love an adventure with a superhero. They do benefit from the exercises. And I do know the recordings I do. I often see the parents are joining in with those recordings. And they are doing the relaxation exercises and they are doing the mindfulness practice. And they are also doing the what is my negative cognition and how do I work to a positive one? So I do feel that they are the playing client because they're the adults in the room, but they are really leaning into the experience of therapy. And I often have a parent joining shortly after the child has finished therapy because they realize that maybe they need a bit of support with anxiety or the way that they are enabling their child. I do have a family where I saw a younger sister. She's on her way. I now work with the older sister. She's on her way. Now I'm dealing with mum. So I'm going through the family. I'm expecting dad to be there shortly. um, but this is how they enjoy the experience and they see the benefit in their own family. And I do work with families in broader context because the dynamic is so close. Working with schools actually is quite straightforward. There are great processes in place. I always get the parent to refer to the school, to introduce me to the school, because I say I would like to actually touch base with the teacher and see how I can support them. I sometimes, if it's a local school, I will actually go in and meet the teacher and have just a 10-minute chat with them and discuss what I'm working with and how they can support the child in school so that we have the same hymn sheet going on and nobody is conflicting. And the teachers really appreciate that because they then not having to do the work themselves, but they know what to do because so many times they do stumble because they've got a big class to handle and they're not too sure of the technique with that specific child. So I support them in that way.
Can I ask a question here? Because, you know, it's the, communicating with the parents, writing up the notes, the exercises, the recording, sending them, making sure they've got it, they know how to use it, and with the schools as well.
Yeah.
That sounds like quite a lot of additional work that needs to happen beyond, you know, you're doing, I don't know if you're doing a 60-minute session or 40-minute session. How long are the sessions? How much additional work do you find that you need to do? Because there seems to be quite an amount of there's an amount anyway of follow through and it needs to be carefully done, professionally done,
Yeah.
thoughtfully done, not carelessly
Yeah.
somebody's copied it on the wrong thing. It's like, I mean, there's something, could you speak to that? Because I think some people who perhaps are less automatically conscientious than you might be a bit I'm thinking about me, might be you
He's
know.
honest. He's honest, if anything. Now, the thing is that you write up your notes anyway after a session.
Hmm.
So I simply write them properly. And then they go abbreviated to the parent. It's not a big love letter, you know, it's just key points. This is what we've touched on. And I discuss with the team that I'm going to be sharing this with your parent. Now we have confidentiality and I discuss that with them as well. Now, if they tell me, oh, they snuck their phone up to their room and they were meant to have left it downstairs. I'm not going to tell mum necessarily that. How I will structure it is perhaps we need to make sure that all devices are plugged in downstairs. Yeah, I have ways of letting them know without, you know, snitching. So there's certain confidentiality, and I let them know that, you know, if you've had an argument with a friend, I don't need to tell mum that. You know, you're having that argument and we're dealing with it. Um, there's no concern broader than the issue. I said, but however, if there's this kind of issue or that, then we will talk about how we will speak to mum or dad about it, and we can speak to them together. So I'll end the session early, we will call them in, and I'll actually say, we need to just discuss something, and I am there to mediate. But the entire, and I tell this at the beginning of all my sessions, this is a judgment-free zone. You do not get into trouble here. This is where we simply learn and effect change. We do not punish. And then the teen feels a lot more relaxed, and children start to relax too.
And I want to come back to my first question there. We haven't got
Okay.
how long your sessions are and how much extra time is required. I
Yeah.
know, understand you're making notes. Let's come back to that in a minute. But I just want to say also, I think when people are first starting out, they might also feel a little nervous navigating all some of that and the boundaries of confidentiality and not wanting to make a sort of critical error around confidentiality. This is something that's well covered, but also supported post course, is it?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You do have supervisors that are working with children and teens now who are on the course, will be on the hub, but they will also be coaching you through the end of the case study and be allowed there. We're going to be more active on the hub. Any questions? And obviously, you do naturally have a supervisor who would be able to assist with any additional ones on that. But just jumping back to the time that, so yes, there is additional time. So I will build in that perhaps, and I tell them that it's all included in the sessions. Okay. I don't add on the costs. I have a home office. So for me, I don't have overheads. However, if I have a 20-minute conversation with a teacher, that is billed as a full hour. So when
Okay.
I do that, it's because it's covering all the other times. So I
Okay.
will have a conversation with the parent, and sometimes I need to have a call with them if something has escalated or we're not in a good place. Then I will have a call with them, and then that is charged. And I have session based on that. So I do say to them, the scripts are all included, the recordings are all included, the questionnaires are all included. There's no hidden costs here. I am dealing with, in my area, not always wealthy people. So I do cushion it that might be 20 minutes. However, that includes my driving time, that includes my notes, it includes me writing letters to doctors or to head teachers or emails, and it all evens out. And they are
Okay.
quite happy with that thing because
Okay.
everything is transparent. But
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
I make notes, therefore the parents can get notes. But if they're in the room with me, I don't need to send anything out.
Okay. And session length, does that differ by age a little bit?
A little bit, yes. I normally do an hour, and that is broken up with talking, with exercises, with drawing. But I do have my younger clients where it'll only be 30 minutes.
And the hour is a full hour. It's not a 50-minute hour.
No, it's a full hour. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a full hour. I don't
Well,
shortchange my clients.
well, it's a whole joke in the whole, the 50-minute hour. So,
Yes.
but okay, okay, I just wanted to get clear on that. So I don't know if that people had that question going through their head, but it was going through mine.
Yes,
So I
so I
asked it.
know that Emma charges a premium for children. She adds an amount on, okay, to factor in that amount of extra time that she needs to do. So you
Yeah.
can structure differently,
Yeah. Yes.
and it does depend on your market as well. Yeah,
Yeah. Because there is a certain care in those write-ups that is more than you would necessarily have, and even with your notes, perhaps because you're going to use them for this and this, that
that's
might
it.
be shown to other people.
And,
So
in rare opportunities where I have to deal with social services and a team around the child, I do obviously have meetings that I have to attend at schools sometimes for some more extreme cases, and also, liaising with parents for different resources that they need to access. So yes, then it is added on then, but then that will be charged as a session.
good. Okay,
So
good.
yes, you got to make
Good.
sure, otherwise you feel shortchanged. It's not going to be benefit to you. Um, just an example, you can read through this one. It's just a sample script. I thought a little bit of creativity, the flying blanket. Um, and I'll let you just read through that. So we are touching on the imagination. Um, Most children have had a picnic somewhere. A similar one is a magic carpet that they grab onto and they fly through the night sky. All of them touch on relationships between their group, their family, their friends, having fun, understanding, leaning into colors, being curious as to what they see, how they can fly, how they can control something. A lot of children want control but are unsure, and haven't yet had the experience to be in control of anything yet. So it's a lovely, just a fun script that Emma has in the course, and actually just relaxes them. I love the magic carpet one. I use that often for my children before they go to bed and they soar across the sky and they're pulling on the tassels and then they float down to their bed, comfy bed, and then they melt into the covers and then they go fast asleep. So there's many different ways of doing it. I just thought that was just a little idea of how fun and creative we can be, and you can expand on them, and doing a little induction of tired eyes, sleepy eyes, and relaxing the eyes, and then they relax their eyes. Creativity is probably a lot in this course. And I thought I'd just give you a bit of a screen grab of ideas, how we do it, how my brain works. We explain the upstairs brain and the downstairs brain. I often use story dice. We throw those out onto the desk and then we line them up and then they tell me a story. And that can relate to what's going on. It can just give me more of an idea of them as a person. We're always exploring them and all their little intricacies. The worry monsters at the top, the emotion monsters. We have angry ones, happy ones, sad ones, peaceful ones. And they get to have those and handle them and talk about that emotion, developing that. Glitter jar is my all-time favorite. My glitter jar is the hardest working glitter jar there is out there. I use it every session. I use it with my teens. I use it with my adults. It makes sense. We take a glitter jar. Sometimes we can make it together if I'm feeling very brave with glitter in my office. Um, Oftentimes I make it beforehand. I go, look what I made for you. Glitter jar. And then I show it to them and then we shake it up. And then we hold it there in front of them, and then I say, "Can you see through the glitter jar?" And they're like, "No." I said, what can you see? Everything is swirling. And I go, "Well, that's what your brain feels like, isn't it? When you get really upset." And I said, "Look, if we sit here really still and we just breathe, the glitter jar just clears through, and we can see right the way through." And it's a lovely explanation. And they
Wow.
do go home with that feeling, "Oh, Mom, can we make a glitter jar?" And Mum's cursing me around the corner. I like to go through thoughts, feelings, and actions. It's like the CBT triangle. I help them to process that. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What actions are they? And this is just a lovely example of, how it could be discussed. And we do work a lot with breathing. And these are just four examples. There's loads. Elephant breathing, back to back breathing, actually helps them develop that sense of calmness to it. I love tummy breathing because I get them to lie on the floor and I put a toy on their stomach and I get them to watch it go up and down with them, and it teaches them to breathe properly and effectively. And that's a huge skill for them when they're feeling anxious. And I go, "Oh, can you imagine that tiger going up and down on your tummy now? That's it, breathing in and out." And so we can develop that sense of efficacy. And they will sometimes say to their parent, "Oh my gosh, I can feel that going up and down. Yeah, I see that tiger going up and down. I'm calming down nicely now." So that's just touching on some of the fun stuff that we get to do. Um, and I thought I'd just touch on a case study if you've still got time, Mark.
Yeah, the question is, we have got time, I think. The question is, we got some questions as well. Should we go through a few questions first and then come back to this?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I've grabbed some out of the thing and some people put them in the Q&A. Let's respect the people that have actually put them in the Q&A. Somebody asked about parents and do we always have to have, does it need to be a parent in the room? What if the problem is the parent?
Yes, yes. Very interesting. Yes. When they are younger, we need to have a parent in the room. There are ways of setting up your room that you can actually have the parents slightly separate. I sometimes put them in my chair and I go sit on the couch with the kids. I have a beanbag in my office too. I do encourage it in the beginning. With the younger ones, it's normally not a problem. With my teens, it's often the parent is part of the communication problem. So I do
Mm.
allow them to be in the beginning so they understand how and what we're talking about. But then if the teen initiates it, I did never suggest it, but if the teen says, "Oh, I'd rather mum didn't come in," then they can have that conversation. And I say, "Mum, are you comfortable with that?" And child is confident, then we can do that. But legally, you need to just check. We need to have that permission from the parent under the age of 18.
Okay. And if the problem, I mean, there's a whole issue around safeguarding and things. Sorry, I've got someone
Yes,
else who wants to be here. We've
that's
got a
all
whole
right.
issue around safeguarding, but let's setting that aside, that issue with the parents, which is
Yes.
something we do cover in the course, and you'll
Yes.
work out how to handle. But if the clearly is that actually more of the problem actually is with the parent in terms of, so do you refer them to see somebody else? Do you see them at the same time? Do you see them separately? When the parent really needs actually some therapy, basically?
Yes. So I find that working with the parent at the same time is very beneficial because I
Wow.
already know the dynamic. Okay, so it makes it faster. I can work with the parent and the child in the room at the same time. I have done that in the past, where I've had a girl that's been very upset with a mum, very struggling, they're not communicating well. I work with them. I am the mediator, I'm the calming influence, and I can actually get them to speak openly and honestly and not judgmentally to each other. And I teach them both techniques at the same time, which they can then go and practice. They can be honest in the room, and that's why I say this room is safe. There is no judgment here. We are only here to listen and to solve. So be honest, but we're not going to be nasty. Yeah. And then they actually say, Mom, you always watching me. And I'm going, okay, Mom, so why are you always watching her? And we can then help that conversation go, oh, because she did this. Okay. Do we, and I help her to understand that she can't always judge on that. And so we have that conversation and we develop it out. Sometimes I do speak to the mum completely separately, because the child or teen has identified the issue, but they are not at the time to actually speak to each other. They need individual conversations first, and then
Mm.
they can be brought together. And I do have that as well. So it will depend on the case entirely. But I feel comfortable speaking to both of them because it's actually about each other. So instead of two therapists talking to each other, I get them to speak to each other quite quickly.
I get a remarkable sense of you staying very centered.
Yes, I am.
So
Very calm.
very calm. I mean, are you ever going like, holy sh? I mean, inside your head, you know?
I might. Yes, there are times. I've had one teen just stand up and start yelling at me. I clearly pushed a button, and that for me was a moment of going, be calm, do not react. And I said, I can see that you are angry with me.
Mm,
Yeah. Do you think we're going to solve anything if we yell at each other?
mm,
And then she sat down and she thought about it. And then we had a really good conversation. We had a huge breakthrough after that. But
interesting.
she needed to do that to realize how much she was suppressing. So that was for me to just receive, but not accept, and help her to see how that was not helping her. So
Mm.
yes, there are times when I go, oh my goodness, especially when there's conflict. I
Yeah,
don't
I
like.
mean, when that conflict's happening in front of you, I mean, just anyway, just impressive
Yeah.
ability to stay centered there. Now, Tony Callahan asks, is it easier to work with younger people to help shift dysfunctional behavior patterns as opposed to older adults who've obviously longer term ingrained behavior patterns?
Yes, Tony.
Yeah,
I
simple.
love
One
it.
word
It's
answer
so
there.
quick. It's wonderful.
Okay,
Yes, it
they
is
get it.
faster because it's not such a learned behavior.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's why we can effect change more quickly. Yeah.
great. So Lucy Chara, and she asked, but we did address this a little bit, but
Yeah.
seeing there are so many more SEND children, and we were talking about neurodivergency, is the course helping with SEN, or would it still be out of our sphere of competence after the course if we don't have prior training other than our family knowledge?
So I do additional training always. I'm always on courses for autism, ADHD, ADD, and just for myself, for my development, because I don't specifically work with it. However, I do end up working with certain characteristics of it. And so it is very much case dependent and depends on where they are on the spectrum. I work with a very complicated 5, 6-year-old who I've actually working since he was 3, intermittently helping the parents set up and the school set up structure that would support him. And that is not my sphere of competence, but my sphere of competence is supporting the parent, and supporting the school, and also supporting the child in understanding boundaries and approaches and thought patterns, and looking at the self-talk, and developing certain techniques until the diagnosis is provided.
I
So
mean, in a way, it's kind of it's taking the model that you have, but being sensitive to certain aspects that need to have a slower, more careful approach.
yes, that's
Yeah.
it. And there's a lot in the course that provides you with the structure to work with that and supporting the family in that case, and behavior modifications and helping them to be curious and flexible within that, but also helping the family calm themselves. And because as they get more anxious about the child, it does exacerbate the
Yes.
situation.
Yes.
So you can work on the various areas, and I find a huge success rate when I work with the parent and the child specifically in that context.
And I think I mean, the non-medication support for ADHD is fundamentally behavioral, cognitive behavioral
Yes.
framework approaches,
Yeah. It is.
with attention paid to environment and environmental support factors like reminders and systems and things like that. So it's not, it fits very, once you've learned the cognitive behavioral sort
Mm,
of framework approach, which we really do teach you pretty well on the main diploma,
mm.
then see that applied through the ages here. And you've got the hypnosis as well coming in. This can really, you can really come in and adapt to the individual presentation. And I'm not one for labels.
No.
Labels make us aware and sensitive to certain things that'll need more attention. But
Yes.
in the end, it's an individual case
Yeah.
that you're working with. So you're going to have an individual case conceptualization
Yes.
and a tailored approach for that
Yeah.
individual.
Yes. And I build that up
Yeah.
with from the Mickenbaum course. I do the conceptualization, the whole
Oh, you
page,
use his 9 box. Yeah.
9 box thing absolutely every time, because that really helps me to structure it and clear my thoughts as well, because some cases are quite complex.
Yeah, I think his 9 box presentation is very helpful for particularly for the more complex cases. And of course, it's interesting because people talk about the timelines and what's gone on earlier, and with the
Yeah.
child, well, there's not that much that's gone on earlier because they're only 8 years old as
That's it.
compared to a 48-year-old. So
Yes.
it's quite interesting from that point of view. But still, it can be complex because there's
Oh,
lots
yeah.
of factors going on, and you need to be aware of these vulnerabilities. And the key Mike and Bound concept is then strengths, strengths,
Yes.
strengths, strengths.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
all of these children have so many strengths. They really
Mm.
do. That they've actually reached out for help has meant that a huge shift has happened. So by actually approaching them and working with them, you can find out how the techniques. And the course do cover ADD, ADHD, and autism. Yana goes through that of certain techniques that are actually more pivotal in helping them to work within this environment that they are currently in, of school or home,
That
and how
that
to
that's that
manage that.
Yeah, that's Jana's area, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
Is so, and I think it's just worth this Meichenbaum's. There is the Meichenbaum course as well, which would
Yeah.
thoroughly recommend people to take it.
Yeah.
Filling things out on both ends here, working with young people, but then working with the whole life spectrum. Meichenbaum's approach being very much a narrative strengths-based approach. Yeah, focusing in not just on vulnerabilities and victimization experiences, being aware of that, but on strengths, and then creating a narrative around those strengths, a new resilience narrative
Yeah.
story
Yes.
around those strengths. And I just think that works with the kids. I just think
Yeah.
that's got to be so great.
Oh, it is huge, and it does allow also the parent to be a part of that,
Mm,
and they can develop that story with the child.
mm,
They can rewrite it and develop those characters within that. And Daniel Mariah, he also speaks about developing the story, you know, and
yeah.
obviously all from Mechabaum and working together with that whole concept is huge. And I literally have the child develop their story, literally draw it out, because that's what they need to see, and they see themselves becoming the superhero. We talk about people that they can look up to, sports people. I have some boys that come and they go, oh, there's something, and I go, okay, so you've got that chap that what's your biggest football hero, and they'll mention someone, and I go, okay, fantastic. Okay, so do you think he just walked in the door there? No, 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 you worked really hard to get there. Oh, okay, so you know do you want to think about that for a second? And they're like, fine. Yes, I need to do this. And they realize that they actually have to do something, and they can look forward to that. When he
Mm.
lost a goal, he lost the World Cup or something. What did he do? Got up the next day and he went to training. So you're going to struggle with something. What are you going to do? Get back up, give it another shot.
Yeah, have them use their models, their
That's
role
it.
models. Yeah, yeah.
That's it. So role models also key in that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's have a look here. Georgina says, do you find sessions with children are more effective in person than online? Let's address the in person versus online question.
Absolutely. Below probably the age of 9 or 10, depending on the child, I will only do in person. Teens I can do online. I do prefer to work in person, to be honest. But there are, sometimes I have just, there's so few of us that work within this that really, with more of us, it'd be a lot better. So get studying.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because I have to work with North London and Kent, and I'm working in Dorset. I'm working in boarding schools in God knows where. because there's no one in that area. And I
Mm.
think if we can get more in person, it would be easier. I can't work with young children online. Their concentration is struggles. They can't touch it. It's not animated. I do tend to, struggle with anyone young.
You have a lot. We need a photo of all your toys out across the floor at some point.
Oh, I sent it over. Just tidied it up.
So, Katrina asked, what if there is bullying at school? Are you contacting the school or anything else? I can imagine if there is and the child comes in acting confident or calm, the bully can make sure they will soon feel miserable. Yes, and the teachers, oh my God, don't even start there. I would really love to make a difference and teach also teachers, not only kids, as we all know, motivation is key. So, what about bullying at school, dealing with bullying?
Yes.
Something.
Huge, huge issues because there are different levels of bullying and different areas of bullying. Face to face, online, physical, emotional, crowd bullying. Someone goes, moo down the corridor, and then everyone starts going moo at this person. The crowd mentality is awful. And yes, I do have a number of cases with that. And the parent does come to me reflecting that. I will then say, have you reached out to the school? And they will say, yes or no. And I do encourage that. I will go to a meeting with the school with you, the child not there just yet, and let's work out what's going on. What steps are they taking? I can also discuss how I'm building up to the child and what we will do about the case, because there's no point in not managing it from the school's perspective and just me doing it. There's a lot I can do in strengthening, especially with online. That's not a problem. We can handle that because it's not on school premises. Even if it is a pupil, it's not the school's responsibility.
Mm,
So I do walk them through that. I have done a anti-bullying course as well. It's just there's a lot of free courses out there with a lot of the charities, so do look into those as well. Where you can actually have a day course and get some additional resources. I'm constantly doing something because there are so many different areas that we tend to work within and touch on.
mm,
So whether that is brushing up on your autism, ADD, ADHD, or neurodiversity, or dealing with schools with bullying or academic refusal or behavioral, and that there are so many different areas that you can just build up your knowledge in. But definitely, yes, I approach the school, but with the parent. Don't just directly approach them. Yeah.
Alice asked, do schools allow time out for people to attend an appointment? Are all appointments done post school time?
So yes and no, it does depend on the school. I've always wanted to say to the school, listen, can we take, a Tuesday morning for 3 hours and I can just book a room and take the students that are in the school and actually meet with them there. I'm almost there with one of the schools because I have two students that they need me to work with. And then I will book out space in the actual school. However, some parents are happy to take them out of school to come and see. Otherwise, it tends to be afternoons
Okay.
that I will see them after school. Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's an interesting question from Lucy Charan. Given that schizophrenia isn't yet diagnosed at this age,
Yes.
is there a risk that using kids with very wide imagination might be detrimental to those that might have undiagnosed schizophrenia, kids being so much more suggestible to imagination, believing things that aren't necessarily real? And I think that's an interesting question. I think the other area that definitely goes along with that, which is the issue of maybe doing some type of parts type therapy with a child that might then develop DID, or multiple personality disorder, because we know that is something that can be nearly created in therapy. Schizophrenia, I'm interested if you've had children who have displayed indications of psychosis that have. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Sorry, my video's frozen there, I think.
Yeah, it's all right. There you go. Yeah, so I have not come across any cases like that. All of the people I deal with have uh, lovely imaginations, and they walk that line between reality. A lot of children will, will talk about an imaginary friend. And that should obviously dissipate through the developmental stage. But I have not had any child that has delved in deeper than is normal for a young child, within the imagination therapy. I think it would probably stand out if they got a bit too involved. Um, but currently I don't know if there's actually any research on that. That would be worth looking up. Maybe speaking to Jana about that if she's heard of anything in that sphere. But as far as I know, there's no evidence to support that doing imagination therapy will increase the risk of um, psychosis.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. I
Yeah.
think the parts thing is a bit more interesting. And,
Yeah.
I think that's, having people, I think it's a problem, the whole, anyway, let's not dive into what's going on TikTok with uh, um, dissociative identity disorder, but being given kind of now a validity for people to have multiple personalities, which I think is actually really problematic that's
Yeah.
happening out there.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's not dive. That's a whole rabbit hole. Now, Olive asks, how much is the course and how long is it? Fiona asked that as well. So let's just say tonight we essentially are launching the online version of this.
Yeah.
Previously we never taught the course live in person because
Yeah.
we've switched to live stream. Emma's taught it live stream with Jana and the other teachers, which Flavia took, and then Emma's on sabbatical, and so we haven't been able to have the course taught as a live stream, and we've been preparing a video version of it that's then supported with supervision, which Flavia will speak to in a minute. And we have Flavia's come in and done all the finished up editing and any extra filming. So we now have this course available to go out as an incredible learning experience. And those of you who've done the online diploma just know how well this content does actually work in learning experience when you have that group and one-on-one support going on as well. So, and the price of the course is £545 right now, including VAT. It's probably not going to stay there at that price because all our prices are very, very, very reasonable. So do dive in there and take it at this price. But Flavia, can you speak a little bit about the mix between the recorded lectures and then the discussions that you can watch, the materials that you receive, and then the case studies, supervision, etc. How that
Yeah.
all works.
So we've got the full online course, which is a combination of three different live webcasts, webinar courses. So that's very robust in its coverage. Within that, you get a handbook, a manual with all the exercises and various case studies, sample scripts, letters, and through the course, everything that you will need is in that, as well as additional research that you can link to. That is the handbook. Then you will get all the slides that are associated with it, so you don't need to learn anything or copy anything down furiously during the course. That'll all be sent through to you. Then, if you want to get the certificate in the course, there is a case study. Okay, so it's a 3-session case study that you will set up. That includes 1 hour planning with a coach, okay, who specializes in children, and then half an hour discussion post case study, okay, to be signed off as a certificate. Okay. In addition to that, once you're part of that course, then you can also be joining onto the section in the hub that is for children and young people. And on there, I will be active and supplying extra information, additional resource, a different information around latest statistics, or also additional scripts that I have found and I've developed will be added on there. And we will then also have discussions and questions answered and helped out. You will obviously have a supervisor for the case study, and that will then allow you to have someone to check things with, any additional information, and that will also provide the support should you have any issues that arise.
And I think it's worth saying that this is, we just started this now as an online. It's 6 days, and essentially that's done really in a 3 day kind of when we teach it live stream, it's a 3 day block. Then you go and do your case study, and then 3 day block. So you really you're putting things into practice. But we are going to be seeing how this works and seeing if there's extra support needed, etc. So it's in its launch phase right now. dive in. Flavia's going to be very involved, and whatever extra support is needed to get people there will be there. You will have completed, and somebody said, should I wait to finish the diploma before signing up? I don't know. I think it depends. I mean, Flavia, you could speak to that a little bit. Should people wait? I mean, I think it's a little bit, to me, it would mean a little bit about how well you are progressing
Yes.
with the CBH diploma. If you're feeling probably finish stage two, and if you're
Yes.
feeling at the end of stage two, like, yeah, I've got my hands on this. I'd like to look at the kid. You could look at that and then come and do stage three. If you're doing the online, that would work. I wouldn't do it before you finish stage two, because stage two is where you really start to get some of the major frameworks. Am
Yes.
I? Would you agree with me there, Flavia?
Absolutely, because also some of the exercises that you're referred to in the children's course, you need to actually understand them in the diploma.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are the adaptations that we're speaking about, and to have that understanding. So I think progressing through stage three, by all means, then hop on to that course. It will just make more sense, really. Yeah.
The other thing I'd say is kids aren't quite as cognitive. In other words,
Yeah.
we're working in stage one and two, particularly stage two at behavioral and emotional behavioral level, which
Yeah.
is, and then giving tools for that. So
Yeah.
going to that, what do you think of your deeper beliefs is like,
No. I
so,
don't have them.
right? They're not quite so thinky.
Yes, yes. I think I'm an M&M, they have so much fun with it. And I think,
Yeah.
every part of the course, and I even within the diploma, I always encourage my students to be creative in the way they approach it. And really, this course for anyone, even if you're not going to work with children and
Oh,
teens,
yeah, yeah.
I would encourage you to do it, because the techniques that I've learned, that I've enjoyed using with my adults, they love to be playful. They love to actually get involved. They like to draw something sometimes. They like to tap into that inner child and have a bit of fun. And they like to go, oh,
Could
cook
you,
raw
could,
spaghetti,
could
cook
you
spaghetti.
take off your jacket, loosen your tie, take your waistcoat off, get in the sand pit. Let's play.
Get some colored pencils out. I've got the glitter pens ready for you. Let's go. Yeah.
So
So
I love that you brought that up, because I think what I've seen, in watching the way Emma is, just an incredible creativity, freedom, playfulness that I think is absolutely so important for, nearly more important for working with the adults. So there's something here for everyone in doing this, and
yes,
I think both per professional but personal development.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And there's so much about yourself in the course. There's a lot of reflection, and Emma refers to golden threads that are moved through the course. And, I learned so much about myself on that course, and my freedom to actually just have fun with it. And our adults that come to see us are, are laden with a challenge or a concern, or they are heavy with that. And for them to just lighten that load for a little bit of
Mhm.
time, to add a bit of fun to it, to
Mhm.
laugh, to actually, laugh through the tears, is just cathartic. And we enjoy the sessions more. I love working with, teens, children, adults, because we can bring that side to it and help them to be more creative and enjoy life and develop, as, Mick and Bum always say, hope.
Hope. Yeah. Well,
And
so
children need hope too.
yeah. Everyone needs it. They
They do.
arrive demoralized, and our point is to reinstill hope, and that they can pursue things and goals in life. So, some questions. Georgina, isn't working with someone suicidal outside of our sphere of competence?
Suicidal,
Yeah,
yeah, yes, it is. Um, but we need to define that.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, because I have the same conversation with OCD. OCD is outside of my sphere of competence. However, OCD traits is not. They are habits. And I've done a lot of research on that and a lot of work. And I have, I work with certain traits. It's not full-blown OCD, but it might be a pre-OCD. And if we can get a handle on it now, we can develop the tools so it doesn't become OCD. And the same thing with suicide. We've got to look at what it is. Now, I know that there is information. Daniel Mariah does some information on that. I think there's a video, if I'm not correct.
Well, I'll announce right now, where there's a workshop that's coming out
Yes.
with Dr. Chrissy Ivings, who's a
Yeah.
clinical psychologist, who worked. She led CAMS up in north of England and cut the waiting list down to zero nearly in the area she worked in. So she's really senior in this whole thing, and she's developing a self-harm and suicide risk assessment and management workshop, which probably we're going to require everyone to take actually in terms of their qualification. So we'll just be rolling that out, how that, and then that's got relevance here. But one of her main points, I mean, obviously we need to be comfortable asking the question. That's important at a certain place, because we need to be able to uncover if there is suicidal ideation going on. And that's very different from having an actual action plan and
Yes.
being more at risk. So evaluating that outside sphere of competence. So we have to, and then we don't just refer people on and kind of, oh, it's outside my sphere of competence. They've opened up to us, and they
Yes.
may not have opened up to anybody else. So there's a duty of care in there and an opportunity in that arises that needs to be managed. You may then want them to refer to a psychiatrist and be under that. So, but still, you may still stay in there. So this
Yeah.
is not something that's going to be, oh, it's outside my sphere of competence. Refer. No, the child's opened up to you, so there's an opportunity there. She's passionate about people stepping into that opportunity in terms of
Yeah.
the other, they get passed on to somebody else, and who they don't feel that connection with. They trusted you.
Yeah.
So it's not a simple thing as saying, oh, that's outside of my sphere of competence. It's much more subtle than that.
Right. Absolutely.
uh
And I think, just in my case, that she went there for suicide, that was simply her cry for help, to get attention, to get
yeah.
not attention in a bad way, attention in a good way of, I need someone to hear me. And nobody was hearing her, even at the hospital. So by coming to me, I heard her, I supported her, and it wasn't suicidal. She just had huge amounts of anxiety. She had OCD tendencies, and she was driving herself crazy with it. But that was her group of friends who actually had someone with OCD in it, and she thought she had to copy that to belong. So there was a complex case there of absolute confusion of this young 13-year-old. If I look at it, I heard the story, and I always hear the person and I speak to them to actually understand what it is. People will come to me and say, oh, I have OCD. And I go, when was it diagnosed? Oh, it wasn't diagnosed. Okay. So what does OCD mean to you? A lot of them, it's Google Doc. They just Google it up and they've come to you with a diagnosis. It's not a diagnosis. And that's why we always investigate and ask them some more questions to then actually check, is it or isn't it? And that is even more so with teens, because they have access to the TikToks and everything else, and they just dive in on a trend. She honestly, 3 months after that, she came to me and said, oh, do I have ADD? I'm like, no, you don't. Would you stop going onto the internet? And I was like, oh, what does ADD mean to you? And she just started laughing. She went, I'm doing it again, aren't I? And I went, yeah, you are. She's like, okay, I'll stop that now. It was just her, just trying to grab onto something to make herself special, to make herself stand out. So if I had just rejected that, she would have slipped through the cracks.
um Fantastic. Alice asks, what age of child is the youngest you work with? What's the youngest child you've worked with? I'm going to rephrase that.
Ooh. I don't tend to go below 4, but I have actually had a 3-year-old before. Yes.
Wow.
But
That is
that's 3 working with a parent,
okay.
helping the parents support that behavior that was coming out, that was really a very aggressive behavior, and handling that. And sometimes you get calls like that of, I just can't control my child. Okay, what's going on? Tell me more.
Now, we haven't trained you to work with that age level, because I think the cut off the course is like 5 or 6 generally. I think that's about it.
Yes.
So what strikes me, and what has always struck me when I've interviewed you, Flavia, is you kind of something happens, which you turn into an opportunity,
Mhm.
and you apply a very pragmatic approach to it from all that you've learned, and figure out how to help. Is
Yes.
that seems to sum you? I mean,
Yeah.
is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that all of the
Without
techniques,
blagging it, but you don't blag it. You don't go,
no, the techniques can be changed. You can
Hmm.
modify them in subtle ways to support that. The child is communicating, they have an emotion, they have something they need to talk to. There's the boundary, and then there's teach them what to do with that behavior. What can we do? We can be silly, or we can be serious, or we can do this. There's things that you can communicate with that. And I mean, granted, this 3-year-old was very sharp, but the 4-year-old had huge problems at school. So to go into the nursery and actually observe and actually go, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to set up a schedule for him. He needs to know what's next. This is what you need to start building in for his developmental level. And
Mm.
Yana speaks to that. What is that developmental level? That's it. I double check that. And then I go in and I go, right, that's where they are. Understand that. And now how do we support that in that structure of the school? So it's not blagging it, it's just taking the information, actually adapting it accordingly. But you've got to be creative.
You got to be creative, but also you got to be stay centered and not
Yes.
lose. You know, I mean, there's an underlying confidence
Yes.
about, you know, I think I can probably help here. You know,
Yeah.
that I think is I'm interested in what that is, that you're not, you know, you don't have years of like titles and PhDs under your name, but here you are coming in, working with the relationships going on without having done the. I mean, so
Yeah.
there's an aspect of just of what I'm trying to just, you know, have
You've
tease
been
that
trying to
out.
work
This
me
kind
out
of
for years, Mark. You haven't got there yet.
problem solving of just, you
I,
know,
I
I don't know.
do, yes. I think the course has taught me this, and it is something I definitely keep developing is problem solving.
Mm,
Because I'm not just working with the child. Often, helping a teacher to translate what they know into helping that child, help the parent approach the child in a calmer manner so that they are not bouncing off each other and reacting. So there's many dynamics that we're using through our own training is to actually then continue to develop that and place it into the real world. Because academically, it's wonderful, but now how do we translate that into the real world? How
And
do we make that a change for that person at
I
that
think
time?
that problem solving mindset and the problem solving model,
Yeah,
which we can't speak to entirely here, which is incredibly simple but so powerful,
yeah.
is also it's not getting into the diagnostic labels.
No.
It's transdiagnostic. It just goes, well, what are the problems that are happening here?
Yes,
And seeing that anxiety, depression, and other things are the result of poor problem solving or poor
yes,
coping skills, essentially.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And especially at that age,
Yeah.
if they can learn to problem solve and they can actually handle that, they keep their development constant and their emotional growth is there. But so many times we focus on academic growth, on physical growth, but there's actually emotional growth that we're not developing enough in children.
I think it's really important because that might help people a lot. Is that problem solving model flips the whole thing on its head.
Yes.
Instead of you going, oh my God, I've got a child presenting with this type of anxiety, it's generating all these problems. We're
Yeah.
going, because they're not very good at solving problems,
Mm.
they have this thing that we call anxiety that creates further problems. But
Yeah.
it's actually because they're not very good at solving problems because they're avoidant, because they have an avoidant problem solving style.
Yeah.
So they don't have a thing called anxiety, you see.
No.
So you're not treating this thing called anxiety, you're looking at avoidant problem solving. They
Yeah.
avoid stuff.
Yeah.
That's actually the problem.
Yes.
So um and I hope people start to see, when you start to see that, we start to pull this whole sort of edifice of these diagnostic labels apart. And when we say a transdiagnostic approach, I know it sounds fancy. It just means we're working without those diagnostic. We understand there's some wisdom in them and there's some information in them, but we're really looking at, well, what are the problems that are going on here in a very practical way, right?
Yes, it's the nuts and bolts of it because
Yeah.
a child doesn't care what degree you've got or what course you've got behind you. They need you to hear them now. They need you to be still in this moment and actually hear them. Probably
Mm.
for the first time. Someone's not judging them. They're not saying, "Oh, you're just a kid. Just stop it." You're actually listening to them and going, "Okay, so what does that feel like? Where is it? Where are you feeling it? Where is it?" And they are going,
Emotion,
"It's
emotion focused problem
yeah,
solving,
that's it.
emotion centered problem
Yeah.
solving. I
What are we
think
going to do about that?
they
Wonderful.
renamed their book. I can't see where it is on my shelf, but they renamed their second edition of their book Emotion Centered Problem Solving because people thought it was much too just kind of mathematical problem. Realizing no, it's all about your emotions. Your emotions have information for you that
Yeah.
tells you there's a problem.
Yes. Yes. So sort it out. Yeah.
Now let's give us
How,
a call it. So, very good. Jessica asks, any written assessments?
no, the case study is written and presented. So there is that full documentation as a case study, yes. Um, in in the supervision part of it, there are questions that the coaches will ask you to check the work and the level of understanding. So there will be that part of it. So that is obviously discussion point, and the coach will then see your level of understanding. And then the case study is written, and that will be part of that. It's a very practical course. We are obviously off the back of the diploma that, we need you to actually do the exercises, actually commit to it and test it and try it and be curious and be creative. And that is actually part of it. So that is very important in this course, working with children and teens.
Okay, thank you so much. And I've just put the two books there that I mentioned earlier that are
Yes.
kind of the sort of the really substantial textbooks by professors of pediatrics in the that we based a lot. We haven't based the entire course on that, but I had them read that through and pull all the wisdom there.
Yes.
Fantastic. So, I don't know. We are at 8:43. We've gone over time. We haven't got to your case study. I don't know. We still have 61 people hanging with us here. Do you want to take 10 minutes to do your case study, or what do you
I'll
think?
do that. Yeah, I'll take a little bit.
We do
I
that,
won't.
everybody? Yeah.
Yeah, you'll be
Yeah.
fine. You'll be
Just
fine.
the scholarship program Anonymous NT, we're not running it right now. We're trying to work out actually how to properly run the bit, because we're running a little bit slim in terms of operating funds. So we will be looking to raise funds for a scholarship, probably with a crowdfunding where both scholarships can be funded, so people can make donations, and
Yeah.
then we'll try and have a scholarship review, and then people can get bursaries towards things. But we can't as a private organization. I'm learning to be a little bit more financially smart than I have been, and giving away scholarships when we're not managing to run properly is an
Yeah.
issue. So
Yes.
we will be, but we are looking. My daughter came up with the idea of using crowdfunding to raise funds that then we can fund the courses for certain people who don't have the funds to do that. We'll work out a process for that. So that's the idea. So if you want to make a donation to anonymous attendees, a fund for anonymous attendee. You do need to identify yourselves, people. I think that's helpful. Then let's we can do that.
Yes.
So let's have a look at your case study. This is interesting.
So I will go through this. This is with a Millie. Sorry, I did click the wrong thing there. All right. So this is school refusal, which is just a bit, you know, uh, prevalent at the moment. I think it's the winter. I think it's the cold nights and that. So I have her presenting as a 14-year-old. Okay. She intermittently goes to school, but she'll only go into curriculum support, which is what their school is calling. It's just a separate room where those who are disrupting class go and sit. There's a computer there and they can do work, and there is a teaching assistant in the room. So it's meant to be quiet, and they just meant to crack on with the work that is set. But she's not engaging with that. Since September 2023, she has not engaged. However, the mother has mentioned that this issue was beginning the year before in school. She was starting to become isolated, not leaving school, but not engaging within the classroom. What it looks like is when she refuses school, she simply disengages with her mother. She just sits there, hands down, and looks down and refuses to answer, move, or do anything. Her mother can ask her father, so the grandfather, to come in and help. He is apparently the only one who can get her going, to get going, because mom has to get to work. If that doesn't, if she doesn't really want to go, then she will have a panic attack. I have not seen the panic attack, but she will either create one, or she really is feeling panicking about it. And I do think she is feeling it. But her mother says she's not sure if it's just manipulation. The school have her in this room, curriculum support room. She simply stares at the desk and draws very intricate images on her hand. Sometimes when she comes to therapy, I can see these images, and they really are, the hours have been spent on those. When she goes home, if she has been at school and she comes home, she does go up into her room. She just watches TV in her room. She comes down, fetches her dinner, goes back up to her room to just watch TV. So she's completely isolated herself at home as well. She will speak and be normal, but she doesn't linger long in the family areas. Um, I have had a meeting with the school, and they have no next steps, which is a bit scary. I asked the mental health nurse, as she is called, to reach out to her teachers to get feedback. Is she doing her work? Is she doing it remotely? What's going on? Because no one seems to know or be following up on it. And she says, no, most teachers do not even know who she is. I saw the quotes. The teacher actually, the mental health nurse copied in exactly what teacher said what. And most of them are going, never seen her in class, no idea. The other one is, do I even have that child in my class? Rather shocking and scary, but this is the situation that she has come with. Otherwise, her parents are divorced. Her mother has remarried. As everyone seems to be okay. But I always then look at maintaining factors. Why is this going and why is it continuing? The mother has heightened anxiety. She struggled through school, and she has admitted that she is enabling her daughter because she's transferring. Oh, my poor thing, I know what you feel like. Stay home. So she has done that in the past. There are no repercussions if she stays home or if she goes to school and she does nothing. There's no repercussions. So her behavior is actually being reinforced. At her father's house, he apparently was happy to engage, but has not reached out so far. He doesn't want to start anything with her on a weekend. He sees her every weekend. She goes on a Friday and comes back Sunday morning. Um, the school have mentioned that she has tactile issues. According to a test that they have run, I have never seen sign of these. I will often pass items to them in the therapy room, and I test this just casually. I do things, and she's never shown signs of having any issues with anything tactile. I give her different kinds of pens. I give her different stress balls to hold, or I have Chinese medicine balls to rotate in your hand. They're quite relaxing. I give that to sometimes if that's like a fidget thing, old-fashioned fidget spinner. And she's not shown any signs of that. So I'm unsure as to what test this has revealed. Since her mother's remarried, Millie stays in her room more as it's his TV, the new husband, and her mum has just let herself move from normal activities, family activities. So we see a behavior pattern here. It's not just school refusal, it's actually social refusal. She only has one friend. Her friend at school actually exhibits exactly the same signs, and I'm supposed to work with both of them, but the other friend is actually more resistant to help. So we have them actually feeding off each other. Socially, she doesn't do any hobbies. She does no other activity. And so you can see that isolation has been coming over a while now. And these are then, that's the narrative she's now encouraging in herself, is that I can't be with other people. I can't go out. No one likes me. I'm not good enough to be around. We are discovering that as a narrative and a belief. Um, I did start with psychoeducation with her. I'm ensuring I don't, with teens, you have to be quite specific. You don't speak down to them. I give them the full scientific explanation to their nervous system, why our bodies react that way, why we stay in that process. And feedback over many years has been very much my daughter really, or my son really appreciates you speaking at the correct level to them and not speaking down to them. So it is important for teens to actually treat them like an adult a bit. You know what I mean? Not fully, but actually to explain these concepts. Um, for her, for this young lady, I've been looking at her values. Who is she? She has lost sight of who she is. She is really struggling to describe herself um, as a daughter, as a friend. But we've made some lovely inroads in that of her just developing, oh, I'm a very good listener. I'm very supportive. I would like to help my mother cook um, and help in the house more. And she can see she wants to. So I have spoken to mum on the side and asked mum to say, can you cook dinner with me? Or can you help me tonight? I'm feeling quite tired. And over the week, she has slowly started to do those exercises with her mum, and mum has started to eat dinner with her at the table. The stepdad eats later, apparently. So I've encouraged them to sit down together and eat, and apparently that is improving their relationship quite substantially right now, which is great. And that's the building blocks of her now going out into the wider world. I'm giving her space and time to process what's being asked. I do find that she shuts down when questioned, so I have to do it in a broader way. I ask her to draw a lot, seeing as she likes to draw on her hand. I will relay to that. And I use that as also in mindful exercises with her. I will get her to take her imaginary hand and to draw a scene, which she seems to lean into quite nicely. And she seems a bit curious after the exercise about how I saw things, or what was the point of that exercise? So that is very positive for her to actually ask questions, because she quite quickly shuts down. So that is a development in her emotional honesty now, and saying to me, I'm actually cross with you. She came in the other day and said, I'm actually angry with you. I went, okay, why are you angry with me? Well, you just keep asking questions. And I went, okay, so how do you think this works? And she had a little wry smile to herself. Just, well, just make it right. And we both laughed at that one. So I heard her, and I said, you know what it is? Therapy is frustrating sometimes. We don't like to be asked questions because they're hard. They're hard to answer, and sometimes we just don't know the answer, and that's okay to say. I don't think I know why I'm doing this or why I'm doing that. That's okay too. We can work on that. We can find the answers together. And she does love the process of together. And she is trying very hard now to actually process why she's doing things and what changes she needs to make. We have got to the point of experimenting now. So I love building the scaffolding for them of going, okay, so can we do in the actual curriculum support classroom, I need you to be doing 30 minutes of schoolwork, and then you can have a break for 30 minutes, because the periods are an hour. So she started to do that for each half an hour. And I've relayed that to the school, that she will do the first half an hour of each class. Please, can you encourage that and support that? And know that she's doing a great job. If you see her doing something, saying, thank you, Millie, that's really awesome. Keep it up. Because she needs to actually grow that self-efficacy, that she can do it. And then her process now for this term is going to be to actually go and into the class, to maybe the first subject, go in for that one and then come out and do that for 1 week. Go into that first subject and come out. And then we can scale that up. Generally in my process of school refusal is we'll do the first subject, then we'll go to the first break time, which is the first 2 subjects, and then go back to curriculum support, and then start to integrate into the next one up till lunchtime. Normally, if I get the 2 right till break, then I can get them in the next step, the whole chunk till lunchtime, which is another 2 hours. And then the last subject, that takes a little bit of time because they're tired then. So building that scaffolding of behavior experiment, and then rewarding that and understanding, oh my gosh, I did that. I did good. Now, is that a question of sitting in the classroom and sitting at the back? First, that is also a process we'll work through. We'll do imaginal rehearsals with that, understanding how that would feel. And if someone turned around and said, who are you? We can just ignore them. What would our reaction be? What could we do? I don't know. Who are you? Helping them, assisting them with that. Yeah. So flexible thinking, allowing them to develop that process of belief. And then for her, it has been very hard to do, but discovering a hobby, a passion to motivate change. And for her is to be a tattoo artist. So I've encouraged her to look at tattoo salons that are in the area, and maybe, reach out to one of them. So we're at that point now where she's trying to decide if mum will reach out, or whether she wants me to reach out, or whether mum can accompany her, and actually build that bit of confidence to ask them questions about it, because we've discussed how that is her motivation in her studies. If she studies hard, then she can get the right GCSEs, and then she can actually go and do study further design and artistic things and that, and actually develop that interest for her. Whether she's going to be a tattoo artist or not, don't know. But just developing that hope and that passion is very important for her to actually step forward, and develop it. So this is a process. It's not completely finished yet, but I thought it was useful to share because it's the relationship building between the school, where now I've actually had to go in and meet with with the mother, going to meet with the head teacher because academically they are not supporting her, and the mother has that high anxiety where she actually can't face these situations. So that is part of what I have stepped in to do. Normally, I don't have to do that at all. Normally, it's just simply with the teen and moving forward and relaying via email to the parent the next steps and the next phase that we are in, and they talk to the school. But in this specific situation, mum is realizing she is unable to support the child. And being honest about that has been very important. And, I've, appreciated that from her. And I've said to her, I will support you. And obviously then she just pays for that session and we go and take the meeting and we handle the admin around that. So she is becoming more, you know, uh, extroverted in her approach, very slowly, very step by step. She's intimidated by the crowds of the school, but we do a lot of rehearsal with that. We do a lot of role play. How do we handle it? Can you get out of class a minute early so you don't have to be in the corridor when they're there? So a lot of factors that we can build in. She does have loops. So a little earphone that she can actually have in her ear that just dull the sound on certain wavelengths. She has different techniques that she can use on her desk. Teachers know not to ask her a question if she does go in, just let her be in the class. That's the level we're at now. But later on, she'll have a way of signaling to the teacher if she needs help. And whether that is email afterwards or, putting her pen to the side of her desk, and that means that she needs to ask the teacher something. We have a lot of techniques that I will then go into with her as she starts to manage her anxiety within the classroom environment. So I hope that just gives you a bit of an idea as to, how you can approach it. Um, Obviously, you are leaning into different interests of theirs. She has no music interest. She has nothing else, which is what I would normally go for. She just has the drawing. But that's enough for me to be able to grab onto and develop that trait. And so every SMART goal that we've done, she's actually drawn. So she has done it in an artistic way and shows it in a diagrammatic way. And it's almost like a serpent going around the edge of a picture. And she writes and she draws the imagery in that of her strength and the symbols that represent that. So as much as, writing a SMART goal and actually doing that level like that, for her, this is how she approaches it, going up to the serpent's head. I had to look up a lot of imagery that would support this in a positive way to make sure I don't go into something negative. But this is a sign of strength for her. And so we can all do that. Yeah. So I hope that helps a bit, give you a bit of an idea. But I think, yeah, that was just questions.
It's great. Yeah, but you didn't let her do a tattoo on you, no?
No, I wanted to.
You think that would be some boundaries maybe there being crossed.
That would be a step too far. Absolutely. But she could draw on her own hand to her heart's content.
Fantastic. And just yeah, everybody just see how that yeah, seeing a case study there, you see it all come alive and sense the impact on this child and then also on the family and everyone involved. So
Yeah.
fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know you've got lots more you could share as well, but
Oh, so many.
time here.
Good time.
So, yeah, I hope you're inspired, everybody, by saying that I'm always inspired when we get into this area. And there's so much help needed out there.
So
And
much.
you don't have to be working with stuff way outside your sphere. It's not like that. There's simple stuff to begin with. And there's a lot of support we can give you along the way. You're not just we're not selling you a course and then that's it. We want you out there successful and actually yeah, really making an impact. That's what we're about. So we'll do whatever it takes to support you if you step in and take the course
Yeah.
to do that. So yes, and it may change and adapt as we work out how to make the best of this. And we are probably going to look to be having, we have a certificate of attendance right now. We're definitely looking to make something more of this, I think, in terms of probably based off of you doing a lot more supervised sessions than having more of a sort of qualification you can stand behind, and we can stand behind as well, as we are with the kind of the full sort of psychotherapy pathway. So fantastic. Now I just dug out an interesting book. I'm going to send you a copy of this as a gift, Flavia, because for part of today,
Examples.
if you don't have this already,
I
Daniel
don't.
Daniel Arawaz developed the negative self-hypnosis concept in
Yeah.
his, he did another book on hypnosis and sex therapy, and he's a
Yeah.
professor of psychiatry. Did a lot of work in the 1980s. So anyway, but this is really interesting, using this much more Barber's T model. Do you remember in stage one manual team? Yeah.
Yeah.
So using that, working that model of hypnosis with children and families. So yeah, very interesting. So fantastic. When the course starts, you can sign up now, and we'll be having a group start. I mean, we're not having so much, maybe we will have it sort of launched to kind of month to month, but right now it is launching. So sign up. There will be a whole group of people starting in January. So sign up this January and get started. Let me show you where that is on the website. We're going to develop a bit of a prospectus as well to give with this too. Boom, here we go.
We're just
And
so
I'll
keen to get it out there, you see. We're just spinning wheels that.
Yeah, we've been waiting. It's been going on. I've been every week. I talk to Shelley. Is it ready yet? Is it ready to go out there yet? When's Flavia ready to do something we can launch it? So this has been, it's been waiting about 3 or 4 weeks to launch. So on the website here, when you go to the website here, you click courses, and then you click Hypno-CBT for children and young people. Can everyone see that? And then once you click that, you'll go here, right, there's a button at the top, online version now available, book the digital version. And then you'll click that and go through, and you'll see when you click that, it is right now £545, which, considering the amount of work put into this and how much supported, is a very good deal. And what you get from it is an incredibly good deal. It explains the modules. There's some testimonials here, different people, what's in the course. Click here to get more detailed breakdown of the course content. And then these are in the video, the main course trainers here. Emma, who we said is taking a sabbatical right now, but she's in the videos, and she really was the main engine behind putting this together. And there, Dr. Yana Martiskova, who also on the course but taught, did a lot of the background work with Emma on that. And then there are other people coming in as well. And then Flavia is going to be there providing supervision through this as well, who it's for, and then about doing. If you want to get the certificate in children and young people, then you need to complete the digital course content, do a case study, and attend supervision there as well. And then we will be, I think, building that out into more of a qualification based a lot more on actually just doing a lot more supervised casework, whether that's 300 hours or whatever, but there will be a point at which we'll, make that. So, good. Will this ever be a live course? I'm not sure right now. We have to see. Emma's on a fairly long sabbatical. There's been a lot going on for her. And we're giving her, the best wishes and support during this time. Not sure, Flavia, what we think about going to a live version of that. I certainly would really want Emma in that. And I just wanted, because she did so much of this. So not sure right now, Jessica.
I think there was one question on there. Can I use my own child for the case study? No. But I bet your child has friends.
Yes, there you go.
It's
Yes,
a
the
little bit too
assessment.
close.
The assessment, the £70 assessment, is on top, Lucy, there, because we do have to pay people to market and review it. So yeah, that is on top of that there. But I just want you to, the people, not everybody who taken the course has gone and done something with it, but those that have done something with it have had an amazing experience, I think, both personally and professionally, right?
Yeah.
As we see.
Absolutely. I mean, I still speak to my cohort that did the live course, and they are still, ticking on, doing jobs sometimes at the same time, but they really, the benefit of it for themselves and also their families and the wider community has been huge.
And I think that the aspect about making this be successful on the business side, so to speak, Flavia will be able to give you a lot of input on that. But it's worth saying that both Flavia and Emma built up practices with long waiting lists, fully booked, based entirely on referral only.
Yeah.
So, you really, if you want to make, if you want a hypnotherapy practice where the marketing is easy, work with children and young people,
Yes. They do the
right?
marketing for you.
They do
You
the
know,
yeah.
they
So
do. And it
brilliant,
don't
everyone.
ever knock the power of the mum group and the dads at the soccer field. And they are always talking and they share their struggles and they share their successes. So honestly, I've broadened my base. I sponsor a netball team, a regional netball team, and a football team because of the work I do. I can then give back to the community at a grassroots level.
And you doing?
So
Where are you based? Because you're not in sort of busy South London,
no,
are you? Yeah.
no, I'm in West Sussex, in a little village called West Chiltington. But the nearest city is Horsham. But honestly, all of my clients come within this, basically within 10-mile radius. But the word of mouth has spread to Southampton, and I work then a lot in the private boarding schools. Because if you deal with one child there, believe me, all the parents want to see you. Um, so I need people in Dorset. I need people in Kent, North London, please.
Yeah. So there could be really a massive network of therapists out there doing this.
Yes. And the
Um,
Highlands. Yes, Becky.
and
I
the
need
Highlands.
Highlands. Come on, girl.
Yeah. So yeah, dive in, do it. And again, I think after stage two of the diploma, providing you're making good progress, if you're struggling, oh my gosh, this all feels too much, then complete there. But if you're cruising through stage two and going, this is so good, how will this work with young people? Then dive in, take the course there. So welcome, Aliv. It's 9:10. We're 40 minutes over time. But what to do? You asked so many questions. Flavia was so good, and
Oh, I'll
and
never stop talking.
the
Come on.
spirit was with us. So
Exactly.
um thank
Thank
you.
you so much, everybody, for attending and spreading the word. It's so important. And there are communities out there that need you. And honestly, I'm always available and ready to chat and support and guide. And, the hub will be that good platform for that. Any resource, I use TAC Access, which is free to use for therapists. You go on there and that networks through all the colleges, all the universities, and most schools, and is endorsed by all the top education providers. And that is a free platform for you to load your things onto, and they just pop you emails and referrals, and you just get it all over. So there's platforms out there that help you that are free, that allow you to network. So I will happily share all that information to allow you to work with the wider community.
Yeah, well, maybe we can put that up in a sort of structured document in the or a video in the in the course materials there.
Yeah.
Um, very good. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. And happy New Year. Happy 2025. Make it a happy 2025,
Yeah.
and make your time worth your time. And I hope this evening was worth your time.
Yeah.
And I certainly enjoyed that very much.
And we will hopefully see you all soon. Thank you. Have a good evening,
Yes.
everyone. Bye.
Happy 2025, everyone. Thank you so much, Flavia.
Bye.
I'm going to make sure I've got your address, or send me your address. I'm going to send
Oh,
you.
yes. Do it here in the chat.
Okay. Good night, sweet dreams.
Night, everyone.